I'm John Rodgers, and today we're going to be looking at a few whales, some canals, and a lot of locks. This is going to be a cruise in September 1997 from Quebec City to Warren, Rhode Island. The ship was a Mayan Prince, and you'll see a picture of it later on. It was out of Warren, Rhode Island. And we went with not too many passengers. We had a couple with us, Helen and Ben Castine, whom we know. We left the van in Warren and were bussed up to Quebec City, right through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, with lunch in Vermont. In other words, we were right here, and here's the route going up right to Quebec City. And then the route we took was up through here. As soon as we got to Quebec, we boarded the ship, went up to the Saguenay River, and came out. Where you will see all the whales is right in this area. The St. Lawrence is 10 miles at that point. And then we came down, stopped at Quebec City, stopped at Montreal, came through all the locks of the St. Lawrence Seaway, came across Lake Ontario, through Canals of New York State, and then down the Hudson River to New York, and up through here back to Warren. That's about all the map you're going to see for a while. I have some later on. As we went out into the St. Lawrence River, the Chateau Frontenac, remember we were at Quebec City, and we were going up towards the Saguenay River. Now, part of this was at night. In general, most of the traveling was done during the daytime, but there were a couple of stretches at night. So we have gone up, and we're in the Saguenay River, which is really a true fiord. It was carved by the glaciers. Beautiful waterfall there. And I had not known about these statues up there. These are huge, a huge statue up on the cliffs, and then a cross down at the bottom of that same cliff. And then we were heading back out to Saguenay. Sort of a stormy looking morning, but it turned out quite good. And as we went along, remember I told you were going to see some whales. This little white strip here is a beluga whale, and that's one of the smaller ones. He only goes from 10 to 15 feet. Pretty little for a whale. Moving on out, here is the entrance of the Saguenay River out into the Great St. Lawrence River. St. Lawrence is still called a river at this point, although it's 10 miles wide. This is the little town of Tadoussac, only a population of 800 at the mouth of the Saguenay. There was nothing in the brochures or anything, but we came to a dead stop in the water. A little skiff went ashore to this town, and came back out to our ship with two young ladies aboard. And turns out they are whale experts. I'm showing you a few more pictures of the little town of Tadoussac. It's very colorful. And then the flags that our ship was flying, I have no idea what that bottom flag was. If you know what it is, I'd sure like to know. You could call WCTV and tell me. The top flag is a provincial flag of Quebec, and the middle one, of course, is the Canadian maple leaf. And here's the young ladies coming out to the ship, and they're going to sort of show us the whales and tell us about the whales and so forth. They sort of took over the ship there for a few hours. And they're aboard now, and we're moving on out into the St. Lawrence. I'm a real nut for lighthouses and waterfalls, and this was a very unusual lighthouse. Now, what you're going to see on this day, and you're already starting, you're going to see 4 different kinds of whales. This one is a fin or finback whale. He will go from about 59 feet to about 75 feet. And he will be weighing about, somewhere in the 60s as far as tons are concerned. about 60 tons, maybe 65 tons. And that one is the one you will see the most of. We saw over 100 whales on this day, and those two whale experts were jumping up and down on the deck because they had never seen so many whales at one time. And we fortunately got there on that particular day. That finback whale, and you're looking at another one now, this is the second largest living animal on Earth. It's second only to the blue whale, and that has ever lived on Earth as far as that goes, including the dinosaurs. This is another little one. This is a mankey. A mankey will only go to about 30 feet. I'm talking about whales, that's why I use the term only. This also is a mankey, and the mankeys seem to come closer into the ship that day than any of the others, so we got to see them at pretty close range. That's a mankey there. You can see that dorsal fin on the mankey and usually tell them by that. Now here are fin or finback, they're called both things, whales spouting. They have just sounded and have come back up. Remember that they are a mammal and they have to get rid of that moist air in their lungs, so they have to blow when they come up, and that is 6 of the second largest living animal in the world all at one time. Just fantastic. Here's another boat. This is a way other people get out to see the whales. They are not supposed to get very close to the whales. That boat is right on the edge of the limits, I am sure. You're not supposed to harass any of these kinds of animals. So you've seen the beluga, you've seen the mankey, and you've seen the fin. And there's one other whale, and we only saw one of them, and that will be the humpback. My wife and I have seen humpbacks in Alaskan waters, and they migrate on down to Hawaii, but we only saw one humpback on this trip. And the humpbacks will go from about 35 to 50 feet. You could really get close to quite a few. Now that one with his fluke or tail out like that, diving, that is a humpback whale. That's a characteristic of them. And we only saw the one. And now we're heading towards Quebec. And the nighttime will come on very fast. And a few little villages on the way. And I just love this picture of a lighthouse as just a little bit of sun is hitting it. And then we are in Quebec City. Quebec was established in 1608 by Samuel de Champlain. And we had a bus tour, and then we took an optional walking tour around this. This is the Parliament building. And the flags, you will see some flags flying at half staff in a moment, because this was during the mourning period for Princess Diane. We're looking out across the Quebec City, and this is Champlain. No, I'm sorry, this is not Champagne. I'm not sure who this is. This is in a park. I thought we were still back by the shore, but beautiful floral arrangements and so forth in this little park, but not Mr. Champlain. Very, very colorful, very colorful. I have an undergraduate degree in horticulture. That's why you have to see flowers when you see see my pictures. I mentioned that the flag would be flying at half staff, and that you see now. Now this one is Champlain, and we're down by the water's edge at this point. This is a nice old city. It used to be a walled city, and so you can still, you take your walking tour within the walls, and then from up there you can look down on the houses, and they look almost like little doll houses. And somebody had a real good setup on the penthouse of that one. Moving on over somewhat, over towards the river, they call this the National Battlefields Park now, but I liked it when they called it the Plains of Abraham, because it was on this ground. The city was French, remember, and 1759 it fell to Britain when General James Wolfe and his troops reached this ground, and they defeated Montcalm. And then it became British. That was the start of many conflicts over the years. Here's the great St. Lawrence River right at the Plains of Abraham. Some more parks. We're just walking around the city at this point, and up where you see the flags, that's the area called the Citadel. Note the homes in the middle of the picture. Very picturesque stuff. Sometimes there's enough ironwork so you almost think you're in New Orleans, but it's not quite that much. Now this is the Hotel Chateau Frontenac, more or less of a symbol of this fair city. We're walking along now down below it, and you'll see some more of it as we go. Stature, remember, very close ties to the sea, and this is like a bowsprit on a sailing vessel. And this is in Artillery Park. Yeah, they did have some battles here. And in the background you can see the Chateau Frontenac again. That's the Wester Dam down in the St. Lawrence River. The Wester Dam was having some problems. They had to take all of their passengers and send them home because they had something running rampant on their ship. They did go on down to Montreal before they made that move. This is right more or less in front of the chateau, and this is a Duffering Terrace. And on down where you see the flag, well, right back in here is that Citadel again. Now we've dropped down to a lower level, and we are going into a little square here. But before, yes, this is the little square. There's a little church here. I shouldn't have used the word before. We were right where I said we were going to be. And I couldn't get a picture of the outside of this church, but I got this picture inside, and it looks pretty good. And we seem to be sort of milling around there, but there are a lot of other people involved now, not just our very small group. And in going around through there, we've come to an area that has churches and that type of thing in it. And we have come also to the front of the Chateau Frontenac. Viewed from another side, we're going out over to an area. The green there is because they're doing archaeological digs in here. And the U.S. flag right there is because that is the U.S. Embassy. and here is the river out beyond. And this is the Wolfe Montcalm Monument. It's in the form of an obelisk. And remember, the battle was fought in 1759, way back. And this is one of the digs, one part of the digs. You can just walk up and talk to these people. They'll talk to you. They aren't fussy. These narrow little streets are interesting as you walk through them, and you can understand why the bus tour has to stay outside of this inner part of the city. There's just not room. In one of the churches as we're strolling around. All kinds of interesting forms and churches and so forth, and this is one of the cannons at Artillery Park. This is a little restaurant today, but I am told that this is the oldest building in Quebec City. Down by one of the churches. And inside the same church. In front of the Capitol. Now these guns are set further out than the Artillery Park, and this is where the wall was, still is really. And this little pathway, and the reason for it being in my show is that this was the Benedict Arnold route when he went up and tried to take Quebec. He was not successful. And now we're back on our little ship, which you haven't seen yet, but you will see. And we're heading down to Montreal, and this is a container ship. We passed all kinds of ships and cathedrals along the St. Lawrence and all kinds of neat stuff. And that right in the middle there, that is grain being loaded onto here. That is wheat from over in Saskatchewan and out on the prairies of Canada. We have come into Montreal now. This is the first bridge as we get there. We did have a bus tour, and then we did a lot of walking from where the ship was docked, but it was rather close to the center of the city. And this is a tower right at the river. We could see this tower very easily from where we actually docked. And everybody has to show you their Olympic stadium. I don't have the date down for when the Olympics were in Montreal, but this is the stadium that was used. Then on the bus trip, we got to get off the bus from time to time, and I am standing with my back against St. Joseph's Basilica, looking down. Now I'm going to take you down to where those people are and look back up at the Basilica. And quite often, and we did see it up these steps here, you will see people on their knees crawling up there in doing penance. But look at the flowers. This is the highest spot that they could find to take us, so we could see the city and the river there. And then we came to the Notre Dame Basilica. That's the outside of it. Now this picture is a little on the fuzzy side, but I left it in so you could see that color combination between the golds and the blues there, very striking. And then outside the church we have a mime. I guess he makes his living that way. And then the Sailors Church. And the City Hall. We're walking now from off of the ship, and all of this is very close by. We're right up by the City Hall again, fountain, and then these formations that they have done with plant life. And that is the ship that we've been on, the Mayan Prince. We only had about, I think, about 32 people on it, and it made for a real good tour. It was quite nice. And that is the old City Hall, and that is now given entirely to a market space. Now, as we come down, Montreal is up here, and those are the places where the locks are. There are 7 locks that make up the St. Lawrence Seaway. 5 of them are Canadian, and 2 of them are U.S., and we'll be going through those. We're going to miss that first lock because it was dark and I was sleeping at the time. But this is the second lock that we come down through the Seaway. I'm showing you enough locks in the Seaway and then in the canals of New York State so you'll know you're on a boat going through them. But I hope not to show you too many. What happens is you go in at this level, the gates close behind you, the water pours in and then raises you up, and then the far gates open and you go on out. Now those gates are closing and we are in. Those are closing behind us. I had switched this around and we're looking back. We have already come up now to the next level and we're coming out. That's the top of our boat. And that's how it looks out in front. We are up to the level of the next. A lot of activity at these different locks, especially on the St. Lawrence way. Sometimes it doesn't hardly look like you got enough room to get out, but you always do, and they got a lot of ships a great deal bigger than we were. This whole seaway system was finished and dedicated by Queen Elizabeth and Dwight Eisenhower in 1959. Dwight was busy that year. That's the same year Alaska and Hawaii became states. This is one of the workers. We're way down low and the gates are going to close behind us. Excuse me. Back out into the seaway itself. The flying birds are geese, and then we went on through into the Eisenhower lock. Of course, this is one of the U.S. locks. And this is an interesting one because if you are in your car in this area, you can drive under the Eisenhower Lock, and that road is coming out from under it. And then you can park there over to the side and go up in this contraption and watch the ships go through the lock, as we are doing right now. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail on this map, but before the flooding started that would make the St. Lawrence Seaway, several villages had to be moved because they were going to be flooded by the water levels. And they took, this is the entrance here, and they took all of this stuff and they made it into a little village. It's called the Upper Canada Village, and those are all homes and different buildings. There's a little church that were all part of the villages that were going to be moved before the flooding started. Now I'll take you right on in, and this is a mill and pond, and then these horses were pulling the logs. They're on a pulley system back in the mill, and they're pulling these logs one at a time into the mill for cutting. Remember, this is old-timey stuff. This is Cook's Tavern. My wife is walking over towards. And then Christ Church. And the Robertson House. This is a beautiful little village, and it's easy walking around it. This is the Chrysler store. And then the Willard store. And then this is the biggest building, the biggest residence in the whole thing, and this is Chrysler Hall. But then my wife got into a good conversation in this tiny little building with the dressmaker who works there. And it's not all people. There are a few oxen around, and there are different people doing different things. This barn is looking out. That is the St. Lawrence River that is swinging in that close. And over in the background, if you look, you can see the church. And they use horses, they use wagons, they use a lot of old stuff here because that's what they brought over. And these people are all in costume, taking you back a few years, and it's kind of an interesting place. Then, just before we got on the bus that would take us back to our ship, our boat, I went into this area, and these are some of the tombstones from one of the flooded villages. Back on the St. Lawrence again. Farms and all sorts of neat things. All kinds of little villages, industry, what have you, are along here. And we're making our way very quickly towards Alexandria Bay. They call it Alex Bay up there. Little lighthouse as you came alongside. Nice residence. Almost looks like the stuff that we will see in a moment down in the Thousand Islands. This is the start of Boat Castle, and we are tied up. I'm standing on the top deck of the boat taking a picture here at Alexandria Bay. That is in New York State, and as I mentioned, a lot of people just shorten it to Alex Bay. And this is looking over at Boat Castle. Boat Castle was built as a present for a lady who died before it was completed. And so her husband never did move into it, so Boat Castle has never been lived in. It's another picture of it. and then a third picture of it. This is one of the most elaborate boathouses I've ever seen. It's right across from Bolt Castle. And we have now changed boats because we're going to do a tour of the Thousand Islands. We're back looking at a few more shots of Bolt Castle before we move on. Imagine something like that being built and nobody ever lived in it. Now we've gone out. There are various islands here. It's not 1,000 islands. The count today is 1,793 islands. Some of them are very, very small. I think there's one even smaller than this little lighthouse island, and it will be the very smallest. It's named Tom Thumb. And we'll just be moseying through the 1,000 islands just the way they did it on the boat. It looks like houses just spring up out of anywhere. And here's that 1,000 Island Tower. And this is a 1,000 Island Bridge. You can get across the 1,000 Islands into this part of Canada over there on this bridge. I think that is the smallest one. I think that's Tom Thumb. Don't hold me too strongly to it, but it is a tiny, tiny little island. And they're beautiful little lighthouses as you go through here. And this is one I wanted to tell you a little bit about. This is Zervacon Island. And this little bridge crosses it. It's owned by the same people. But when you cross that bridge, you're in Canada over here, you're in New York State and the US over here, from that one little place. Very colorful stuff down here, just a beautiful place to be cruising around in a small boat. And we have made our way now to Clayton, New York, and that's where our ship, the Mayan Prince, will pick us up. As a matter of fact, the Mayan Prince was already there when we got there. And there is a boat museum at Clayton. Some pretty good stuff there. These are not old-time boats. These are speedboats. And this is a memorial down in the center of the town, still looking out at the 1,000 Islands. Now, as we're going across southeastern Lake Ontario, that's what we leave as we take off from the 1,000 Islands. And we have crossed that body of water and now have arrived at Oswego, New York. And we're going in, and we will spend the night in Oswego because they do not want to go through any of the canals of New York State at night. You do this in daytime. And we were sitting down and eating, and the captain comes on and he says, "Now I want you to go ahead and finish your meal, but then come ashore as quickly as you can. We want to show you what we're doing." They had already removed all of the chairs off of the upper deck, and now they're lowering the pilot house because sometimes we will only have about 6 inches clearance on the canals in New York State under the bridges as we're going across to the Hudson River. So that's what they're doing now, lowering the whole pilot house. Now we will be going from here. This is Oswego. We'll be coming down here. This is called the Oswego Canal. And then we'll hook up with the Mohawk River Erie Canal system here. This is Lake Oneida. We'll go straight across it and pick that up as we make our way over. And the next morning then we enter the first lock there at Oswego. Now, I don't intend to dwell on these locks because you're going to see a number of them. Each one seems to be different, and so they are very picturesque. But the banks along the side are real neat. This is if you have an aversion for a lot of water, like an ocean, and want to take a cruise, this is the cruise for you. You're never out of sight of land, even when you're crossing Lake Ontario.